have you ever donned an English accent, Billy? Billy Falcon,
You
by
know,
the way, ladies and gentlemen, Billy Falcon. Be excited. Anyway,
I'm
go
excited.
go
I'm
ahead.
excited. No, it's funny. Sometimes I'll speak with an English accent on the golf course or somewhere, and oftentimes you'll be playing with someone from there. They think you're mimicking them, but I'll just put it on. Not that I have a. It probably sounds more Australian than anything else. But no, not as a singer. Maybe as a kid I tried it. I don't remember that. That's funny though. But
Yeah.
Ray Davies was brilliant, and yeah, so was the other guy, David Bowie. Brilliant.
Yeah, I think the English sometimes think we're making fun of them when we go, "Hello, mate," but we're
Yeah,
like,
sure, sure, sure,
but
sure,
it's a
sure.
form of like, from my end, it's kind of like a big compliment.
Yeah, you're honoring
It's
them
an
because
honoring.
yeah, yeah,
It's too good.
yeah, yeah.
So, what's going on, man? By the way, your house looks amazing. You're
Oh,
where you
you've
do your
never,
live stream, but that
yeah,
looks like a
yeah.
pretty sweet,
Well, this
sweet
is all
big
virtual
spot.
though. You could, yeah, right. Yeah, no, it's real. Um, Actually, I live in a shack, and there's just one little corner that I have. No, it's kind of like this. I'm getting tired of it. It looks when I built the house. When I say I built it, it was I finally made money. In the music business after 40 years in the music business. I was on a record that sold 10 million copies, so I made money,
Which
and
one? Which one was
it was
that?
the Bon Jovi Crush record. I
And
had
what
like five.
song? Five
Oh, I had like
songs?
5 or 6 songs on it, and it was so
Wow.
funny because I still don't know what you get
Ka-ching,
paid.
ka-ching.
Yeah, it was
I mean,
good. Yeah, and I have my
bro.
I own my publishing. But the funny thing
Wow.
was, I never like if you ask John Bon Jovi how much money he makes per sale or per song per record, he'll know. I have no clue still to this day. I guess I never really cared. So that record was out about a month and sold a few million records. And I went down to some bar, some club here in Nashville, like a afternoon writers thing and something. It was a nice time and it was a beautiful day. I remember being in this bar to see some band showcase, and a girl that worked for Steve Earle's management, who my buddy was Steve Earle's manager, came up to me and goes,
Danny
Billy,
Danny Goldberg?
no, no, Danny Gillis. That's funny that, Dan Gillis. No, is he his manager now? Danny
Goldberg
Goldberg?
is, yeah, because he used to manage me, and I know he managed
Oh,
Steve Earle.
wow. Oh, I go back with Dan Goldberg a long time. He was my press secretary. He was
Zeppelin
my,
too.
he was my press guy. His company was him, and then he wound up having that label. They tried to sign my daughter. Yeah, and then I know he had Gold Rush, and I think Steve ended up there. But my friend Dan Gillis uh, was Steve's manager, and I was there. And this girl starts talking to me. She says, "Billy, are you excited?" I'm going, "What do you mean?" And she says, "You made 300 grand this week." And I went, "What?" I had no clue. And
Wow.
that was the beginning of it. But you know what? You work you work 40 years or that point 30 years, and you make 800 $900,000 or $1 million even, and then the government comes along and takes most of it or half of it or a third of it, thinking you're going to make that every year, which you may never see that again. It's kind of cruel, but it was the beginning. Again, that was the beginning of a nice thing. But that was the last record that sold that many. That was the end of the 10 million, if you remember. Records
Yeah.
used to sell like that, and it was before Napster. It was right at the beginning of that. But so
So
that was a nice time.
let me ask you this. You're what we would call a journeyman songwriter. In my view, one of the best in the business.
Thank you.
But I'm sure the 30 years leading up to you like going a ka-ching, a ka-ching, a ka-ching playground, which thank God you had that, and I hope it was fun. But what was it like, that moment of like having all those years where I'm sure there was some times when you were like, how am I going to pay my bills? What's this? What's that? Financial insecurity
Yeah.
must have struck you. Maybe you lived like that for years. I don't know what your situation was like, but describe that versus the time where it went like the floodgates of success opened, what that did to your perspective and also your relationship with God.
Yeah. Okay. If this is too long an answer, do something like this. and I'll stop.
Oh, I'm good at
But
interrupting, Billy. I'm good at
yeah.
interrupting.
It's a big question. Jewess, I made 3 records before I was 25. I made a record when I was 19. I made a record when I was, and something happened. I was immediately a rock star. At my 19-year-old record, I was probably 20 when it came out. I was on every major radio station in the country, 5 songs deep on an 8-song record. They used to play album tracks, and I thought, wow, that was easy. It wasn't easy getting the deal, but the record came out and was immediately like just everywhere on the radio. You couldn't. I've never seen that kind of airplay again, even when I got successful later on. But I thought, wow, I did it. But something really weird happened. The record company I was signed with was not in the business of selling records. They were in the business of selling shares of me in a tax deal they had going on where they take people's money, like they were putting money on a racehorse, investing in a racehorse. And the only way they were able to benefit from that is the racehorse not winning. And they were in the business of me not winning. I didn't find that out until I was 3 records deep in that. At that point, I got out of all those contracts because I did find out somebody at the company, the girls at the company really liked me. They looked at me like I was their son. And they said, Billy, you got to get out of here. They do not want to sell your records. They are keeping you. They're making so much money off just the idea that you write legitimate songs that they could show as, yeah, we invested money. We took investors on this guy and we lost money. And that's what they were in the business of doing. It was a tax shelter. And at that point, I got born again somewhere along the line, and I needed throat surgery, and had at the end of the 3rd record I made for them, I couldn't talk anymore. Something happened to my throat. I got a polyp, had throat surgery. It scared me to death, and again, I became in that period of time there where I couldn't speak for like a month, and then couldn't sing for like 4 or 5 months. I was living in Manhattan, no longer connected to a record company, did not know how to even speak to somebody that didn't either work for me or was a fan or worked for my record label. So I was in a really weird place. The girl.
Psychologically.
I was in a bad place. I had no idea how to function if someone, you start allowing people to do things for you that you need to do for yourself. And I wasn't even successful.
I'm still dealing with that, dude.
Yeah. The trap, and I've heard stories about people like Stevie Nicks can't light a cigarette.
Right.
She holds it up because she doesn't know how to light it, and someone comes and lights it. And that light is costing her a lot of money.
Right.
Anyway, I didn't get that far because I wasn't really successful, not monetarily anyway. But people knew who I was and figured that I must be rich and famous, and I was none of those things.
Right.
And at that point, I got invited to a Bible meeting, and I was so lonely living in the city in an apartment that a woman that really loved me, a girl that I had kind of been running away from and torturing because I was a jackass. I was living in an apartment she rented. I had nowhere else to go. And I said, yeah, I'll stay there. And she wasn't. She was only there on the weekends. And then I realized I loved this girl. We wound up getting married. And I wound up teaching the Bible in my house in Manhattan. And I was just like a different human being. I became somebody else. And it was a better somebody else, though I was just writing songs with no look towards ever doing anything in the music business again. I was teaching the Bible in Manhattan in a little tiny room. And then we had a baby, and it was us and a baby in a little tiny room. And on every Tuesday and Thursday night, I'd have 8, 9 people come in, either from the street or people that were repeat offenders coming to hear me try and teach the Bible, which I really wasn't very good at, but my heart was there. And I was just loving the idea. I had a family. You know what that's like. You have a baby, and it's just like, this is what matters. Yeah. This is what matters. And that little girl and that woman I loved with all my life, and I would die every day for them. And it just so happened in the few years that followed, we finally got out of there, got a little place in a really sweet little spot in New Jersey, very close to the city. And my wife got sick there. And in 3 years later, she was gone.
Wow.
And that was a moment I never thought I'd see, because to that point, my only real problem in life was I wasn't a rock star. My pain was that I wasn't a rock star. And God, if that's the only thing wrong in your life, you're okay. But I finally realized pain. I finally knew loss. I come from I had an amazing mom and dad. They both lived. My dad lived to be 101, my mom 93. But I never knew that kind of pain. I never knew the pain of loss, because I don't ever remember seeing the inside of a hospital until I was with my wife in the last weeks of her life, watching her fade away on a bed in the hospital with my little baby outside.
How old was the baby? How old was the baby?
3 or 4.
Oh, dude. Old enough to kind of realize what was going on for sure. Jeez Louise.
Yeah, it was harsh. It was cruel. Insane. It was unjust. But God taught me so much in that moment. So much of it I didn't realize until later on. But what I learned in that moment was that God absolutely brings beauty for ashes. Because the moment I kissed my wife, took her last breath, and I kind of released her. I couldn't stand to see her struggling to breathe when they'd given up all hope. And after what they give her, the drugs and all that stuff, they destroyed her. I think the doctors destroyed her. When she was sick, she was still living. And then when she went to start taking their medicine, within a month or two, she would look like a sick person.
Right.
And I said, you can go now. And within a minute, I told her go, because I knew what she was holding on for, and it was too painful to watch.
Jeez,
and my baby was outside that room, that hospital room, and about 50 of my friends, musicians and people from a Bible ministry I was involved in, just gathered, and they had guitars and there was music out there, and my daughter was running around thinking this is a party, and she got to spend time that afternoon with her mom. There's so many miracles, which I won't even begin to try, because you'll be here for 3 days. Miracles in that day of the last day of her life. She was in a coma for 3 days, and I had sent my daughter away to be with my folks in Florida, just so she wouldn't be around the hospital for weeks on end. And the day I got my daughter, I called my folks. I said, you got to get Rosie back here. Her mom's going to be splitting. And they brought her up, and when she walked through I opened the door. Rosie went across, and her mom hadn't opened her eyes for 2 days. And when Rosie walked in the room, her mom opened her eyes and, like a little child, said, "My baby." And I was crushed. And my daughter jumped in her mama's arms, and she spent the afternoon in her mama's arms. And her mom, it was like two children playing, because at that point it was in her head, but she knew it was her daughter. She didn't know anything, but she knew it was her daughter, and she cooed on her, and she loved on her, and she cried on her. And that night she was gone. By the end of the night, she was gone.
That's devastating.
So God is, and all that to say that God is absolutely amazing. And that night she took her last breath. I have a song called "When" about it. I could sing that for you if you like. I don't know if I ever sung that for you.
Sing it, sing it.
Let's do that now. It's easier. And it goes like this. Let me just, unscripted here, folks, huh? All right, let's do that. Let's do "When." I got to get it for you.
I want to ask you, I want you to do the song, but I want to ask you, like, certainly that must have tested your faith, man. I mean, like, watch, like, just because, you know, the sheer heartbreaking reality, especially framing it with your daughter, the loss for you is obviously extreme enough, but then also it's a double, because I know what being a parent is like to a young child, and watching her lose her own mother. There had to be some kind of question that ran through your head, like, this is too cruel to even imagine. But I don't want to take you off track of the song. It depends on if you want to tackle that.
It's there. It's right there. It's no off track. It's I got to tell you, I never blame God, and I was right not to blame God, because this stuff does not come from God. It comes from the one who comes to steal, kill, and destroy. I knew that then, and I know it now, and I know it. I know it well. And
but he allows it, though.
I don't know that he allows it. We have free will, and I don't think he allows it either. I think he cannot break. There's some things we don't understand.
Obviously,
Joseph.
yeah,
we don't understand. But in him there is no darkness. I can't figure cancer into that. In him there is no darkness.
That's a beautiful line.
I don't think he even, again, in a way, sure, he can't. I believe there's stuff about bloodlines and stuff. I don't know what happened in my wife's bloodline 1,000 years ago, but all
Right.
the devil needs is a way in.
I
And
see.
then he needs people to be ignorant of the truth of God's word and what Jesus accomplished on the cross. Now,
Okay.
I didn't know about healing. I knew a lot of the Bible. I was taught a lot of good Bible in those days, but I didn't know about healing. And my wife's experience, it's really hard if you have an experience of losing someone. She lost her dad at 8 years. She lost her dad young, and then she lost her stepdad, but she lost her dad to cancer when she was 8 years old. This was my wife. So in her mind, it was embedded. You get sick, you get this, you die. And that's a really hard thing if you have that for years in your head. Even if you know Jesus, by his stripes, you were healed. That's where I stand now. And I see it every day. I see it all the time. I see people getting healed all the time. And yet I still see people die because it is a matter of faith. It is a matter of how many times you hear Jesus say in the Gospels, your faith has made you whole, which is your trust in me as opposed to what your body's telling you. You know, faith is nothing but trust. Your trust in me is what made you whole. And sure, yeah, so I didn't blame God. But I was confused, let's say. I was confused because I had such a charmed existence, like I said, to that point. My only trouble was I met a rock star.
Right.
And I was a believer, and I believed this cannot happen. When I was with my wife and she discovered a lump in her breast, I used to wash windows after I got rid of my record labels. I was washing the windows of stores that sold my record, and and I'd bring my little ragamuffin family because I look like a ragamuffin, and my little
Wow,
baby
bro.
girl and my wife, and I'd be washing windows. So I'm washing this one window in a pizza place. I remember vividly being in the pizza place. It was my last job. It was freezing cold outside. I leave my wife and baby in the car because it was cold, and she was breastfeeding the baby, and I'm go inside to do the windows of the pizza place. And because people used to smoke in those days in restaurants, it was just a place you'd sit down and eat a slice of pizza in New Jersey. Good pizza too. I'm pulling away the neon sign, trying not to get shocked, and I hit the window with a ring washer, they called it, this yellow thing on a stick. And as I do that, the nicotine is pouring down the window, and I'm looking through the window at my car through this yellow slime going down the window.
Why
And
is
something
nicotine going down the window?
because it was in a place that people smoked inside.
Oh, it was the inside. I got you.
Inside,
I
I'm in
had
the
you
inside.
on the outside. Right, right, right.
No, I go in to do the inside of the window. When I hit that with the water, it was just so ugly. And in retrospect, it was when I walked out to the car, my wife was hysterical crying. She was breastfeeding the baby. She felt a lump in her breast. And at that moment, it was like she knew she was going to die. And I looked at her, I said, what are you getting excited about? This is nothing. God will not allow this. Right? God,
Right.
I figured nothing bad can happen to me. Nothing ever did. Nobody ever died, I never imagined, but she, God bless her, was scared to death right at the first moment, and to the
Yeah.
world looking around at her, she was a champion. She looked, oh, she's so brave. She's so brave. She's so brave. Every morning I'd see her get up and all she had was fear. It was just racked with fear.
Right.
Anyway, so I never
Well,
blamed
wait.
God. I was just kind of disillusioned, and I had no clue. When she passed, I had no clue who I was anymore to him. And I had no clue what he was to me anymore. I didn't know. I still believed, but I didn't know how I fit anywhere anymore. I mean,
Yeah.
I didn't fit anywhere anymore. I was thrown off the train in my life with a baby, and I was broken. If I had a clock and it was ticking and I was cruising along with my peer group, it was broken there, and that's the enemy. My clock was broken, and for a long time I was just like casted out of the track I was on, going somewhere. I was suddenly wandering aimlessly, spiritually, mentally, just like, who am I now? Who am I by myself? I'm a widow. I'm 34, something like that. I'm a widow. I'm 33 or 34. Never imagined anything like that.
Then, I mean, 33, 34 now sounds super young, but back then, especially in rock and roll, that was like, you're done. I mean, I'll tell you this, just from my own perspective, I used to frame my life, especially going through sort of recent difficulties, like, oh, I don't deserve this. I've written these songs and I should be like this and that. And the shift that I've evolved through has been like super humbling, to the point where what you said about I don't know who I am with God is resonated it resonates with me, and it actually like what I am going through sort of currently, which is who knows how God sees me. I mean, like, I'm blessed with what I have. I'm grateful for what I have. I don't deserve anything more than what I have. And I need to be as humble as and grateful as I can just to protect what I have. And who knows which way the train is even going to go, you know? So it's like, and I feel like that's an elevated place from where I was before when I felt like I deserved something. You know what I
Right.
mean? But
Right.
now I want to
Right.
ask you this: when you're washing the windows in the record shop, or for the record shop that has your records, is that another point when you're asking God, like, what's going on, dude? Are you going to enable me to make a living? I mean, dude, you are a genius level songwriter. That's just true.
I
That's
didn't know
not
about
me.
that.
Well, it's true, bro. You're either like insanely talented or a genius. I mean, probably genius. Seriously, dude.
Insane,
That's just that.
insane. Thank you, bro.
Okay,
Thank you, Joseph.
take one of those or the other.
I'll take either one.
They're
That's
both
good.
pretty
Thank you.
good.
You know,
So were did you also, and this is obviously on a whole different level than losing your wife, but like, did you also have moments where you're like, God, this is a waste of my time, I could be serving you with songs, like, why
yeah,
aren't you
yeah,
getting me out of
yeah.
this?
I guess I didn't look at it like that. I had never worked in my life a real job, because I got, when I went to get a job when I was in my teen years, my dad said, don't get a job, sing. He was a cop. He didn't have a ton of money.
Amazing,
Yeah,
bro.
he was
Amazing
amazing.
father. Wow.
My dad, that's why it's really easy for me to believe in a God that forgives me and loves me, because my mom and dad were not perfect. My family, not perfect, amazing, no, amazing
That
in terms
sounds
of
amazing.
they loved God. And my dad said, Billy, you need $20 to go take a girl out, and that $20 used to be able to do that. Um, he said, you sing, you sing. You're not going to, I wanted to get a job like my friend's driving a truck for the auto parts store. And he goes, you're not getting a job for the auto parts store. I'll give you $20 if you need it. Sing, write your songs and sing. Cause that's all I did. I was obsessed. I was possessed with the idea, I want to do this thing. And I started looking around at my friends getting cars and I'm thinking, maybe and he said, no, you do this. He saw in me what I am, what I do. My brother who was were cops and firemen, had they gone to him and said, yeah, I'm going to get a job, he'd say, yeah, get a job. They're very talented guys, but they weren't musicians. They weren't artists. So it wasn't that I was looking at him, but I was looking at my life. And there was a time where I took a job moving furniture. Again, it was like crazy labor, furniture and office furniture in Manhattan. So you could imagine carrying file cabinets down flights of stairs, full filing, metal filing cabinets. And the people I was working with were, not to be mean, were the scum of the earth. These guys would stand on the back of the truck with pint bottles of whiskey, and girls would walk by and they'd say the most vile things. And I'm a Christian, and I'm going, look at me. I'm one of them. I'm here with them. And I remember this one job I had. I had a baby at this point. I was married at this point. We're living in that one room studio apartment in Manhattan. And I was doing this labor with these people that were they just were dirty. It was demonic, the kind of folks for the most part, I was working with. And it only takes one of them, actually. Maybe it wasn't as bad as all of them, but one or two guys on a truck that were just pigs.
They're going to push the energy.
Yeah. And I remember my job was to go to a hospital this day. It was a cancer hospital. And I spent the day moving boxes, see-through boxes of tumors that had been removed from people. And I spent
Good
8 hours
Lord.
a day for 3 or 4 days pushing these boxes of tumors.
Holy moly, dude.
I remember
Jeez
walking up Madison Avenue at 3:00 in the morning, pretending to be crazy because there were people walking behind me. So I start walking like a madman, thinking they'll leave me alone. And I looked like a bum. I mean, the way I was dressed. Wintertime. And I'm walking up 3 in the morning, and I get home, and there's my wife, and there's the baby in the bed. And I lost it. I looked at her and I said, look at me. What am I? You know what I do? How are you? And I'm going, Nobody called. I was waiting for calls from people about music, you know. Anybody call? No, they didn't call. Waiting for one guy who promised something to call me back. Did anybody call? No, he didn't call. And I just lose it.
Brutal.
I remember yelling to my wife, look at me, I'm moving fucking cancer. That's what I did all day. I moved fucking cancer. What am I? I wasn't thinking about God. I was thinking about me. I was thinking
Right.
about how have I become, how has my life become this? And yet I was happy then. It was just those moments, you know? So that
I
was
feel you.
before.
I
That was
feel that.
before I lost her. And then again, within 3 years of losing her, God performed miracles from beyond, to where suddenly I'm getting calls from people telling me John Bon Jovi's a big fan and he wants to hear if I'm doing anything. And I'm going, yeah, I'm dying. What do you mean? I'm writing songs, but I was writing songs from that pain. And I
Oh
had
my
written a
God.
record. I had written a record and had a cassette, and it said Pretty Blue World. I called the record. That was one of the titles of the song. I was writing a record no one was ever going to hear. That's what I thought. I went from being the boy with the rose-colored glasses to the boy that thought nothing good could ever happen again. And but I knew these were the best songs I'd ever written. And one of them was Power Windows, and one of them was a song called Heaven's Highest Hill about losing my wife. And no one was ever going to hear him. And then I get this call that Bon Jovi wants to know what happened to me because he's a big fan, has all my records. And I sent him, well, I was supposed to, they said, come to Brendan Byrne Arena. He wants you to come to Brendan Byrne Arena, which was the big arena in New Jersey. And Whitesnake is playing. And he might be there. If he's not, this other guy, his guy will be there. Give him any music you want him to hear.
Wow.
So there, next night I'm in the front row at Brendan Byrne Arena, and John ain't there, and I figured that would happen because I'm thinking this is just more smoke to make my life a little worse. This is just more,
Of
you know.
course, yeah. This is another setup. This is like you need more pain in your life, so let's like tease you and get your hopes up, and then pull the rug out from under you. Been there as well.
That's what it is for a long time.
Yeah.
So I gave the little cassette to this guy, a copy of it anyway. And like I thought, I told everybody that knew me because I had too many people looking at me like, oh my God, what's going to happen to him? And you don't want sympathy. Sympathy is not something I want. I want hope.
Yeah, sympathy is an insult.
What I tell people, what I kept doing in light of my whole world just disappearing, I just kept doing what I could do. And that was loving my daughter, taking care of my daughter, and strumming the guitar and writing songs. The ones God gave me, even if I wasn't giving him credit, they came from him. Because I was writing songs I could have never written before. I was no longer singing exclusively about girls, having them and not having them. I was writing about something else and about life.
Let me interject a quick question. When you're in that phase and you're recovering from the death of your wife, and you know you're loving your daughter and you're strumming, you're also working some kind of job to pay the bills, right? What are you doing with your daughter during that? How did you juggle that?
Well, this was the interesting thing. When that happened, I was living in New Jersey. I had been washing windows for a living. I stopped moving furniture. I was washing windows, and then I stopped washing windows. And I had belonged to a Bible ministry, and a lot of the sweet folks that I didn't even know started sending me money. So I had like, I think 10 grand that people had sent me. And my dad, being the beautiful man that he is and was, he's no longer, he died at 101 a couple of years ago. He bought a house next to my sister's house in Long Island. I was living in Jersey at the time my wife died. We lived in New Jersey, and he knew I was still in that apartment, and I really no way of paying the rent anymore. My money, that 10 grand was running out. And it didn't look like there was anything on the horizon that was going to ever pay another bill from me. I had that little bit of money, and it wasn't so little then. 10 grand was a lot more than it is today. And my dad bought a house, and to make me feel okay with it, he said, Bill, the house, just stay in the house. We're going to be in Florida. We'll just come around in the summer, but you move Rosie into the house. And so I moved into that house. So my dad was amazing.
Damn,
and
love your dad.
Yeah, he never said he bought the house for me. He bought the house for me.
Wow.
For me, he never. In other words, I didn't own the house, but he bought the house because of me.
Your dad.
Yeah, he was an amazing dude. He was an amazing dude. So yeah, and it was in that house I wrote these songs that wound up on this Pretty Blue World tape. That again, it was a year and a half later. I never heard back from Bon Jovi. I never heard another thing. And a
Oh,
year and a
really?
half
So you
later,
so you go to the concert, White Snake. By the way, White Snake, big fan. The best Led Zeppelin cover band I've ever heard in my life. Dave Coverdale. Oh, I did a guitar clinic with Vinnie Moore. No, not Vinnie Moore. Vinnie Campbell.
Is he the guitar player?
I think he played with them for a time. I don't think he was an original member, but metalheads can correct me on that. So, but not that they're metal, but you know what I mean, pop metal
Yeah,
or whatever it
sure.
was.
Yeah.
But so you bring the cassette. Do you run into Bon Jovi's guy, and then you never hear from Bon Jovi for a year and a half?
Exactly what I expected.
That's brutal.
It was just another tease, another carrot on the stick that was running too fast
Holy
for me to catch.
moly, yeah.
And it's what I expected. However, I did tell everybody in the world that cared about me that, oh, John Bon Jovi's my biggest fan, and because that's what I was told. I hadn't yet spoken to him, but it was repeated meetings that made that, of people bumping into people that either worked for John. It was very odd stuff. And again, I'm not a fan of Whitesnake, but I was in the front row.
Come on, Billy, Whitesnake ain't so bad. Turns out a lot of those bands are actually better than like what we're getting now. But anyway,
well, you're right.
Yeah.
Tony Catan, I thought was something originally. I'm teasing.
I feel you.
The girl in the car.
I know who you're talking about, Billy.
Poor thing. Oh, Lord have mercy. She wouldn't get away with that today, huh?
What? No.
So man, it's a long story. But it was a year and a half later. I'm down here in Nashville, just checking out the lay of the land because I had some friends here that knew me, knew my wife, loved us, and they had come here, digging for gold, the Nashville gold rush. They came here to write songs, and they weren't having a lot of success, but they loved the town. So they called me and said, Billy, you got to visit. You got to come down here. You got to come down here. And one guy put me up for the summer, him and his wife. Could you imagine the whole summer? And I left my baby with my mom and dad because it was summertime and they would come back to New York for the summer, and came down here, spent the summer, fell in love. At first I got here, I was catatonic. I didn't know how to talk to people. I was so out of it. And within weeks of being here, I became a mover and a shaker that I've never been, and I haven't been since. I realized this was my life. My life depended on me moving my ass. And at that point, I come up with this famous bumper sticker that I've never made: is God moves the world when you move your ass. And I just started banging on every door.
Yeah. I love that. God, dude, have you written that song yet? If you don't, I'm going to start it.
No, don't you dare.
All right, I won't even write it down.
I'm a little
write
thick.
that song. Write that song.
Yeah, I'm a little thick. God reminds me all the time of hey, I gave you that idea. Instead of going around telling people the idea, you were supposed to write a song.
Bro,
and that's one he's reminded me in recent history that you were supposed to write a song.
I did it. I did it yesterday, dude. I'm writing a book, and I told people the title at this cold plunge place I go to, and I'm like, why am I doing that? I have a killer title. I mean, it's fine. And I actually was I was chastising myself on a walk last night and just praying and going, and then I felt like God said, don't worry about it, dude. It's no big deal.
I think what I've learned about that is there's a time. There's a time. So when you start beating yourself up, like I wrote the thing called Make America Gods Again. I had the idea a year ago. So I had my guy, my buddy, my nephew who makes my t-shirt designs. I had him make a t-shirt, Make America Gods Again. Never thought about writing a song. And then just a short while, not just it was in the last 2 months, God said, hey, you're supposed to write a song. And I wrote the song, but I think it's when, the next song that's coming out, I wrote, it's called Heaven Hears the Children Cry. It's about child trafficking. I wrote it a year ago and did nothing with it. And then someone must have heard it because I might have played it on my live stream, my church online. And they requested it. And I go, wow, yeah, that song. And now I just finished the video for that yesterday. But I think it's because now that idea is ripe. the world at large, or whoever's going to hear me anyway, I won't say the world, but whoever is listening is ready to hear that. And this will do something for someone. This song, it'll touch people in the right way right now. So I think it's really, there's a time, Ecclesiastes, there's a time and a place for everything, to every season. So we shouldn't beat ourselves up. I think it's a matter of when the idea is ripe, God will be there to fill in all the blanks. Because I think if you jump on it early, you'll just be spinning your wheels. And I've done that, and I walk away. I walk away, and I come back, and there it is. And God fills in the blanks. And that's why I love writing songs.
It's the best.
I can't build a house, but I could build a song.
And they're immortal, man. They're like, they lean. I'm doing solo acoustic versions of some of my old ones, and it's like, they're fine. It's just like they're still there, and I can imagine them being there at the end of my life. And it's like, wow, I was thinking about that. These are like buildings. These are like, the creative act is so miraculous in that way if you complete something. But so anyway, you're in, and I want to hear, you want to play that song you were going to play, because I feel like that's hanging over. But when you're done with this, I want to pick it up from Nashville. You're finally grinding in a way that you never have. And then I want to find out how Bon Jovi finally got around to calling you. But go ahead, let's play this song. This is about your wife, the loss of your wife.
When I carried her down that long cold hall last night, walking out of the hospital, when friends and family finally went home, when I realized she was really gone, when the front door closed and I could not breathe, when I was in the hall down on my knees, when she woke up 'cause she heard me cry, when she asked why God let Mama die, to buy her clothes and brush her hair, to tuck her in and say her prayers. Oh, sometimes life's so fucking unfair. Yeah. You should have been there. When she was a tree in her first grade play, on Christmas mornings and Mother's Day, when I ran out of gas and felt like such a fool, me and Rosie hitchhiking to her school, when she came to me with worried eyes, she didn't have to see I could read her mind. I just took her hand and walked out the door, held it all the way to the drugstore, to kiss her face and dry her tears, to whisper to her, Mama's here. Oh, sometimes life's so fucking unfair. Yeah. You should have been there. When I didn't know what to do, when I needed to talk to you, when the rain came pouring down, when Mama, you should see her now, trying on her wedding gown. I don't want her to see me cry, so I turn away and I close my eyes. Life's beautiful, I wouldn't change a thing if you could only hear her sing. Sometimes I've made mistakes and I let her down. I sure wish you could have been around. When I didn't know what to do, when I needed to talk to you, when
Dude, that is heavy as hell, man. That just brought the floods, dude. Wow. Wow, that's just fantastic, man. It's hard to
Thank
talk
you.
after that, dude.
Oh.
I mean, um,
Even out of tune. I'm so sorry that I should have tuned this after I dropped the guitar on the floor. As a,
man,
yeah,
that's
thank you.
what does Rosie think of that song?
Yeah, I played that with a band in, we opened for Bon Jovi. When I made that record, the record was called When, the whole album's called When. It's probably the record I would look, if someone wants to know what I do, besides the new record, Never Surrender, and the Holy Fire record, which was more of a gospel record. The When record was a gospel record, but as you could see by the language in that song, I had people come to me and say, "You're this far away with that song from having a #1 country record with like some other singer."
Why did you allow that word in there, man? Because
There's no other word. I could say damn, and if I'm in the company of children, I'll say damn. So damn, life is so. But at the time, when you look at it, life is it's just hard. Life is hard. Let's face it. Even walking with God, I can't imagine walking without God. Well, I can't imagine it because that's what most people do. They walk. How do you walk without God? You take drugs. You're addicted to something, whether it's pornography, just negativity, bad food, alcohol, just promiscuity, whatever it is. Being a vegetable, you're going to serve. Bob said it. You're gonna have to serve somebody. You're eating from something. You're gonna eat somewhere. You can either eat from a pig's trough, or you could eat from the Lord Jesus Christ. Taste and see that the Lord is good. And I praise God. I've tasted and seen that the Lord is good by no talent of my own. It's Him. And so you make a choice, and at some point we wake up, if we're smart, or He calls us loud enough. The enemy gets you with pleasure or he gets you with pain. He takes a guess because he doesn't know what's going to drive you away from God or to God. But sometimes he overplays his hand like he's doing right now in the world. And a lot of people, there's a harvest out there when it comes to Jesus right now that we are just beginning to see harvested, reaped.
What do you mean by that?
I just think the way the enemy has become so obvious. So obvious.
That's true.
Yeah, if you ever heard, what's his name? The dude that used to do that. If I Were the Devil, what's his name? The guy with the radio show. Can't think of his name right offhand. He had a show, a piece called "If I Were the Devil."
Right.
Your listeners will know. If they're my age, they'll know. He had a radio show, and basically he predicted everything that is happening now. And basically, what's been happening for a long time. And if I were the devil, I'd convince you I didn't exist.
Right.
And then I'd get in the schools, and I'd get in your politics, and I'd inundate you with pleasure to the point where you didn't need anything, or I'd inundate you with need, so where you were too much in pain to go looking to God. Need will drive you to God, or it'll drive you to hell. Pleasure will either go make you thankful or make you go, I need more because this didn't fill me up, because it won't fill you up. God has put eternity in everyone's heart. That's Ecclesiastes 5:13 or something like that. So if you don't have that connection, what you have is that pull, that emptiness, like there's something missing. So if you're smart and you're blessed, you go to Him. If you're not, you go to alcohol, you go to drugs, you go to porn, there's so many ways to kill yourself without dying, just make your life miserable and ugly.
Right. Been there, done that.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't do the drugs.
I bought the t-shirt, I bought the extra large and the large. I bought the cutoff.
That's great.
I mean, dude. Yeah, I agree with you. I think the devil's offer is he'll deck out your cage. You can live in a decked out cage with all the creature comforts, but you're not going to be fulfilling your potential. You're not going to be realizing sort of how to bring light to others. At best, you're going to get a gilded cage with tons of dopamine hacks that are running out of time, and the devil's push needs to evolve. So you say he's overplaying his hand, but that was inevitable, because everything in this world needs to evolve. It's like, well, to quote another Bob Dylan line, you're either busy being born or you're busy dying. Everything here is either busy being born or busy dying, including you and me, and including evil. And evil is busy being born. So it needs to keep pushing the envelope, and we're seeing that in society now. It can't like hit a pause button and be like, uh-oh, they're kind of catching on to me. Let me pause and just act nice again and sort of like lay off the gas. It can't do that. It has to keep moving forward. So we are culminating into a major spiritual war. The principalities, or the sort of battlefield of the principalities play on, are getting more hostile and more aggressive. Also, like you say, Jesus is bringing a harvest. He's amping up his game as well and throwing light into more and more of us, because he needs us to be warriors. So I mean, this is not 3 years ago. This is not 10 years ago. This is a whole different time with a whole different set of rules. And people are ready for conversations like this, because we're all living in this world. I mean, and you know, like back a few years ago, it could be like, oh, somebody believes in God or the devil, or they're a little wacky. Now it's kind of like, really? You don't think that's going on here? You don't think there's any of this activity happening? Like, come on, bro. It's like,
No, well, you're exactly right. I'm in there before the show today. I'm writing a new song, and it's called Alex Jones.
That's funny.
I'm writing a song called Alex Jones, because Alex Jones is for years, he's out of his mind, entertaining, but out of his mind. Now he's a prophet. Now he's absolutely the guy. So much of what he said is true. It's happening now. It's just fun. I mean, I'm having fun with the song, but it's, the blinders are off. The devil is so obvious. If you're sleeping now, man, you must be on something really strong. Again, your conscience has been so seared, which the Bible promises their consciences will be seared with a hot iron. That's not good. And those folks are unreachable by redemption. And that's sad. But I really believe the only reason, and again, there's a difference between God. I'm going to allow this to happen. God has no choice. He is righteous. And what has he to do with, it says, like, this is a temple of God. What does the temple of God have to do with Belial, which is Satan? And you think of so many people walking around, Christ-filled people walking around still drinking from the pig's trough. And again, guilty. I still look at stuff on the TV that wastes myself. It's wasting me. And I want to stop. I pray, God, take away my taste for anything that is not from you. And the more you draw near to him, and I'm trying and I'm getting better. But the closer you draw near to him, the things, because I know there are so many things I used to think, this is good, I'll do this. There are so many things. I look back on what I used to think was pleasurable and good, and I go, how could you? They sicken me. I want all of it to sicken me. I want all the things of the world in terms of what the devil is offering, all his, to fill my entertainment time. Years ago, my mom and dad's age, but you go back to the time of The Chosen, that TV series. Nobody had time.
I like that show.
Oh man, they're doing good. It's not exactly something I agree with continually, but it doesn't matter.
Right. It's
beautiful. And you see, those people didn't have time to sit around and be bored. Oh, what are we going to watch now, honey? We just watched 40 episodes of that thing with blood and guts and evil and more evil. They didn't have time for that. They had to go and kill what they, they had to be to bed early so they could go kill what they were going to eat the next day. But we've
Right.
got all this, we have this, poor people have the luxury of time with their iPhone 14 and 4,000 channels
Well,
on
yeah,
Comcast.
but that's also a demonic attack because
Of
it's
course it
like
is.
the
Of course
world
it
is
is.
set up with endless distractions and society
Yeah. Yeah.
entirely backs it. So it's like
Yeah.
and demonizes people that speak of other things, of taking responsibility, of not identifying as a victim, all those kind of things. Go like, oh, that means you're a right-wing nut job, intolerant
Yeah.
prick. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? So it's like, you can hardly blame them, although they do have to like catch wind of it that they're
Yeah.
being duped.
Yeah. If people would wake up again, and I feel like, yeah, I'm wide awake, but you know what? Every day I wake up a little more. Think of Joseph in the Old Testament, Joseph, son of Jacob, the one who,
He's my guy, bro.
Joseph, what a
That's
great
my
name,
name,
Joseph.
dude.
Did we talk about this on the phone? But Joseph, I mean, look at he's chosen, right? It's the man of God comes around and goes, okay, this guy, oh no, he has dreams, right? He has these dreams, and he's silly enough to tell his brothers, hey, I dreamt that you guys all bow down to me, and they're going, he's already the dad's favorite, they know he loved Jacob loved him because it was his son of his old age, right? His brothers hate him because the father has such a love for him, and it's obvious. So Joseph has a dream, and he runs and tells, hey, guess what? I had a dream, guys. This is really great. You all bow down to me. And they'll go, oh, we hate you more now. He has another dream. Now the father and the mother also bow down to him. And Jacob goes, what? Me and your mother are going to bow down to you? But his father knew something was going on with this guy. Then his brothers see him coming because his father sent him out to the sheep, and they throw him in a ditch, and they take his coat. And one brother steps up and goes, no, we can't kill him. That would be awful. We can't kill him. Figuring I'm going to come back. We'll throw him in a ditch. I'll come back and rescue him later. So he's not there. They see a caravan going by. The brothers take him out of the ditch, and they sell him to a caravan. And it goes on. We all know the story. He goes to Egypt. He gets a great job in the captain of the God's house. He's there a little while. The captain of the God's wife is a whore. She sees something. He was very good looking. And she throws herself at him, and he just says, no. How could I do that? Your husband has been so good to me. Why would I do that? I don't want to lie with you. His whole kingdom, everything is mine in his house. And then one day she attacks him, and he runs out of the house, but she's holding his underwear or whatever she's holding. She starts screaming rape. Not one moment. He winds up in jail. Not one moment do you hear anything written in God's word about him bitching and moaning about his situation. Not the ditch, not the accusing of attempted rape, and
Right.
not being thrown in jail. And it goes on and it goes on. Not one moment. But God was able to promote him behind enemy lines.
There's a couple of interesting things about that, though. I think if you live in the moment, if you really are in the moment, whatever is happening, whatever experience is happening is full of interest. So that would be the key to not complaining, even if suddenly you're going to jail or prison or something. It's like, that's another experience. I mean, obviously it comes with all kinds of downsides, obviously, but there's still things within that structure if you're in the moment, if you're not like looking at the future and the past, and that's the torment. So without torment, every experience in life is in the very least interesting. The other thing that's interesting about that story is it's framed around dreams, because he has these dreams, his brothers throw him in the ditch, but then the way he gets out of prison and is through interpreting dreams. Isn't that wild?
Yeah. The whole thing is dreams, and it's brilliant. And again, if he were one to blame God like so many people are, none of that would have happened. If he would have blamed God, he would have been this down in the face, bitter human being. And when he got sold into slavery, he would not have ended up in the captain of the guard's house. And then the captain of God saw favor on him. He saw something in this man. It was the way he carried himself. It was the way he loved his God. It was his loyalty to his God. The captain of the guard was not a believer. But then I tell people go to work and they're bitching and moaning about their boss. If you'll just go there and work heartily unto the Lord and make it be worship. Do it for him. Don't do it for that guy over there smoking the cigar. Do it for God. And God can promote you if that's the way you walk in. If not, you're gonna be in that guy becomes your Lord, the guy with the cigar. Everything we do can be worship, and life like that is just beautiful. It sometimes hurts like hell, and no one likes pain.
Yeah.
I hate pain, but you know what? If it comes my way, I'm just going to stand up and go, he's for me. He's for me. I don't understand everything. He's for me. And if I'm still breathing at the end of this, I'll be in better shape because he always brings beauty for ashes. That's the story of my life. My life was in ashes, and he brought beauty for it.
So let's go back to that ashes point, and you're in Nashville, and then Earl Nightingale saying success is the steady progression of a worthy ideal, and the fact that you're saying like, hey, don't do it for the guy smoking the cigar, do it for God. At that point, I feel like when you're in Nashville and starting to find your grind, you are marrying those concepts. Probably you're like sort of like realizing, hey, wait a minute, I was in a trap up there in New York. Now I'm down here. There's the whiff of opportunity in the air. Now, how can I marry my sort of ambition? And it goes with your bumper sticker. God will move the world if you move your behind. So it's like, take us there, and then take us to when Bon Jovi finally called you.
Yeah. An analogy that comes to mind for the situation I was in then was I was being buried alive. Was worse for my wife, but I was being buried alive is the way I saw it. It was like someone holding you underwater. How hard do you kick? How hard do you kick? Because it isn't in my nature to be a mover and a shaker. If I was, I'd be somewhere else, but I probably couldn't do what I do with songs. I'd be too busy with my eye on the prize. My eye is on the song. My heart is on the song. Not that I don't want success. Of course, I want people to hear what I do. Otherwise, who cares? I know God hears what I do, and people are hearing what I do. But I felt like it's like someone was holding me under. How hard do you kick when someone's holding you underwater? I was kicking. That's the only reason I was kicking for my daughter. I was kicking for my life. I wanted to be able to take care of her. I wasn't really thinking in terms of, but when I say that I was in a place where I thought nothing, when I lost my wife, I really went from being the guy who just expected everything to go my way. Not that it did, I just expected it. And when it didn't, I still expected it. This will turn out okay. Like when my wife got sick. Don't worry, honey. No. This doesn't happen in my life. This does not happen to who I love. This is what I told her. But it happened to who she loved. And it was her. It was on her. And I'm not blaming anybody. But she had the problem. I didn't have the problem. My problem was I had my wife. And I was helpless to help her, and that killed me. That was my problem. I felt when she was dying, I felt like I was being buried alive. It continued after she was gone. I thought there was a moment of relief saying, good, I don't have to watch her struggle anymore. I don't have to be reminded that I couldn't help the woman who thought I was her hero. I couldn't help her. And I'd never been faced with that before. And in my mind, I thought I could fix anything. With humans, I couldn't do a damn thing. So I was fighting for my life. I was fighting for my daughter's life. So within a couple of weeks of being here, like I said, I went around. I was charming secretaries. I'd walk in the lobby of this weird little building down there. It looked like a stack of records, the United Artists Building, and I'd talk to a secretary, a receptionist, and I just like worker, like I was picking her up in a bar, but I was working it to get to her boss. And she'd say, well, do you have any music that I could hear? I said, well, I could play a song. I'd play her a song. And she'd run and get her boss and drag me in an office. And I'm talking to this kind of hillbilly character who was kind of like a little sketchy. I remember, very sketchy. Everybody has a record company. They weren't real record companies. I don't know what they were doing, but I had offers from everybody in Nashville. Like, if you stay here, you move here, we're going to sign you. You're going to have hits. These songs will be hits in 10 years. And I'm going, 10 years? I ain't got 15 minutes the last 10 years, and I can't. But you got to move down here. And I said, I can't move down here. Sign me, I'll move down here. Because I had a baby. So I'm down here for the whole summer collecting promises. And some people had me keep coming back with songs. And I was writing like a house on fire. I fell in with a group of songwriters. For the first time in my life, I was a part of a fraternity. I was no longer the outside guy. I was now felt like I belonged to this little fraternity of songwriters, about 10 people. And we'd meet every night after everybody was spending their day either writing or taking their songs around to publishers or trying to get their songs pitched. And I'm doing it to save my daughter's life and my life. And nothing's happening, but once in a while someone would come. All those songwriters, by the way, all became successful. They all became successful.
That's great.
Some of them became artists. Some of them became just successful songwriters. And
that's interesting.
It was an amazing time. I felt like I've never been a part of anything because I didn't do the drugs in the music business. You know, I chase girls, but you do that alone. I didn't do the drugs. That's what you do. That's where the communion is in the music business, alcohol and drugs. Yeah. And I didn't do it. So
let me interject. Yeah. That's an interesting factor that all those people became successful, because I do believe there are these times when God sort of puts people together that like you attracted this sort of group that we're all going to have success. That's pretty remarkable. But I just, I want you to keep going with the story.
There was again, whether people on the peripheral that didn't, yes, but there was probably 8 people in that group that went on to be big time songwriters and a couple artists that did really well. But so I was at the end of that. I had to go put Rosie back in school, back in New York. My folks were watching Rose, the baby, and I was aching to see her. But I felt like I was breathing for the first time in 5 years, because I was really breathing. I was living, and I'm thinking, my God, it was like church for songs down here. Then I remember sitting at that Bluebird Cafe, which has become very famous, and sitting there. I'd listen to writers there, and I'd sit there crying, just for a lot of reasons. Not only their song, my life, and the idea that I was actually breathing. I was actually feel like there's hope. There's actually hope. But all the while, when I had no hope, and the thought was nothing good could ever happen again. While I was making that little cassette, Pretty Blue World, I was making it a record that no one would ever hear. And that's in my mind. But there was this one thing in the back of my mind, and I still see it as a piercing, like a laser, a bright white light, saying, God won't leave me and my baby here. He will not leave us here in this devastation that my life had become. It was like a city that was scorched earth. And so I'm coming to the end of my stay in Nashville. I have like a week left to stay, and I've got one company that continually is having me back. And I have a meeting on a Thursday, and I have to drive back home on Saturday to put Rosie back in school. And my folks were going to go back to Florida. And I have to drive back. So my stay is over. My heart is kind of breaking because I want to see my daughter. It's also breaking because I'm going to go home now and spend another winter looking out the window waiting for my daughter to come home from school, because the only time I felt whole was when she was with me. Other than that, my life was like a tomb back there. But now I was breathing, and I felt good. I was so excited, and I knew I was going to go back to a cold gray winter in New York. And so I have this one last meeting on a Thursday afternoon with people I had met. They'd been pulling me along all summer. More songs. So I play them 5 more songs, and the girl looks at me with her partner, a dude, and they say, our investors are coming in tomorrow. Can you come back and bring more songs? And I just had played them 50 songs over the last month and a half. And I said, I might have something you haven't heard. So I get home, back at the house I'm staying at that afternoon. It's like 103 degrees in Nashville. I feel like my steering wheel is melting. I pull up not far from where I live now, to this little house, 2,000 square foot house in the town I'm in now, not far from here. And I walk in the house. No, I'm sorry. A week before, I'm in the house, and I'm getting ready to go downtown and meet all my songwriter buddies. And we're going to sit, when the bars close, we sit in the courtyard of one of the bars, a very famous bar where Elvis Costello, it used to be a hotel called the Third Coast. And everybody and their mother stayed in there when it was a hotel. And now it was just a bar with a courtyard. We'd sit out there all night long and play music, play our new song, tell our stories about what's going to happen tomorrow, and who said something about my song, and who might get a cut, or who put a song on hold. Even if it didn't come true, it was entertainment, and it gave everybody hope to hear good news from somebody else. But we were doing it, it was like, I felt like I was in a college. I was in with the right people. It was fun. Never had that before. But on my way out that night, the phone rings in this guy's house, and it's a buddy of mine who used to play bass in my band. He also was in the Southside Johnny for a while. He was the bass player. And I hadn't heard his voice in years. He said, Billy, I was at the Stone Pony last night, and Bon Jovi walked up to me. And he said, hey, you used to play with Billy Falcon. This is a year and a half after I sent that cassette, right? And the guy said, yeah. He says, have you ever heard the song Power Windows? And he sang, John sang him the chorus of Power Windows standing at the bar. And my buddy said, yeah, Billy sent me that song a couple of years ago. And he says, where is he? Can you get a hold of him? You have his number? And he said, sure. He said, will you call him, give him my number, tell him I want to talk to him. I get this call. I'm getting ready to go downtown, meet my friends. I get this call from this guy telling me this. John Bon Jovi is a huge fan. Now, this is the second call, right? The first one was the one where I brought the tape to Brendan Byrne Arena. The second one now is a year and a half later. And I talked to John. I call John. These are miracles. Like I said, this couldn't have happened. These are miracles.
What took him so long? Jeez Louise.
Yeah, well, I'm down here and I'm banging on every door you can, right? Moving my ass, right? God moves the world halfway across the country, right? God moved something across the country. Somehow, John Bon Jovi found favor in me. I found favor with John Bon Jovi, who had the wherewithal to push any button he wanted to push, right? And he was in the mood to push a button on me. Why is that? That's God. And so we have our first conversation is, hi, John, it's Billy Falcon. Hey, Billy, he sounded like me on the other end. I thought I was talking to myself. His voice, his manner.
Yeah.
And he said, what are you doing in Nashville? And I said, I'm writing songs. No one here cares.
I'm waiting for you to call, John, for about a year and a half now, bro. You made me go see Whitesnake, dude.
You owe me.
Come on, bro.
So funny. And what he said was, look, I'm on my way out the door. I'm going to the movies. I'll never forget. It was like 10 o'clock there. It was like 9 o'clock where I was in Nashville. I'm on my way out to the movies. But I'll just tell you this, I am your absolute biggest fan. If you have anything else, send it to me. He gives me his address, and we'll talk. I'm going, okay, great. Now, at that moment, I'm going, I'm never going to hear from this guy again. This is another.
I mean, certainly part of you must have gotten a little bit more jazzed at that point.
I was very excited. I went downtown. I told these people, I told all my friends, because I thought, tell them quick before it disappears. It was in my head. Tell them quick before this turns into more bullshit. Excuse the expression. So I go down and everybody go, wow, nobody probably believes me, but wow, that's great. Yeah. So I wake up the next morning. I had a reel-to-reel built into that Tascam board. I had with the little 7-inch reels, and I recorded like 5 or 6 new songs that I had written, and sent another cassette. And the next day, I expressed him this whatever it was, and
you wrote him a letter with it.
No, I just sent him the songs, right? And I sent the songs, and now it's. A week later, I hadn't heard anything. A week later, it's Thursday, and I have to drive back to Nashville on Saturday, and I have one more meeting. They asked me to come in and play for their investors on Friday. I get home on the Thursday afternoon, and it is so hot. I remember it, and I walk in the house where I'm staying. The couple had a 16-year-old son, and I walk in, and the son and his girlfriend are sitting on the living room floor on the carpet, and he had no shirt on. They had like bathing suits on because they had been at the pool, I guess, and God knows what they were doing. Anyway, so he says, they look up and he goes, Billy, you got 5 messages, and they have the codaphone between them, the answering machine. He goes, you got 5 messages from John Bon Jovi, and he hits the button, and it's
wow.
Billy, if Billy Falcon's there, can you have him call me, please? This is John Bon Jovi. Another one. Is Billy Falcon there? Doc McGee, who you may know was his manager at the time. Doc McGee is calling. This is Doc.
Legend.
Yeah. So 5 phone calls. I called John.
Jeez
And his
Louise.
words, yeah, excuse my French, but his words to me when he picked up the phone is, "What the fuck are you doing in Nashville?" And and I told him, John, nobody here, nobody up there cares about a guy with an acoustic guitar and some songs. Here, it's like church. They love they listen here, And he's like, he doesn't know Nashville like that. He knows Nashville. He used to come here and play
Right.
an arena that he hated. The audience, he didn't do well here.
Right.
And so then he said, I care. He says, what do you want? I said, I want to make a record. He says, I can do that. Come home. And then he says, do me a favor in the interim, come home. I'll send you a plane ticket. And I said,
wow.
I'm driving home Saturday. He really was afraid I was going to make a deal down here is what it was. So I said, well, I'm driving home Saturday. I don't need a plane ticket. He says, okay. So how about you come to my house?
How about some gas money?
You want to give me that? So he says, yeah. Will you come out with me next Thursday night? Me and my wife come, and I'll call you. I'll give you the stuff. But in the meantime, make a list of dream producers. And I'm going, a dream producer list? And he says, what about Danny Korchmar? And I know, only reason I knew Danny was from the Henley records. And in Nashville at that time, those Henley records were God. The End of the Innocents and the Boys of Summer record.
I love Boys of Summer, dude.
They were the records. And the folks I was hanging out with thought like Don Henley, those Henley records were the best country records ever made. In other words, they were too cool for country. So I'm going, Danny Korchmar, and he did the Henley records. And I said, yeah, that would be good. A week later, I drive home. My car breaks down halfway home. We won't get into that. It was a nightmare because I was so excited to hold my baby.
Should have taken the plane ticket. Should have taken the plane. Sold the car at a used car lot. Yeah, you're moving on up, Billy Falcon.
Yeah, not so fast. So I finally get home, and Thursday I go to John's house. And this was at a point where he had just put out the Young Guns record 6 months before. So he's got that long, beautiful hair. He's pretty. He's wearing this very loud shirt buttoned down to the navel, almost with chains, and 3 earrings in each ear. And he was pretty. And his wife was there, and she's a lovely, lovely human being, just sweet. And Doc McGee's there. And it's the four of us. We eat shrimp scampi. I remember this. I remember everything about it. And it was the weirdest thing. I felt like I needed a makeover. I'm sitting with John looking like a rock god. I mean, he looked just like he came off the stage of the Living on a Prayer video or something. It was very funny. And so we finished dinner. Doc McGee is the most engaging dinner companion you'll ever have. His stories were just funny as hell. Funniest man, such a funny man, and a pretty cool guy. It was always very kind to me. And we retired to the drawing room, and it's covered. And I walk in, it's a room a little bigger than this room, you really can't see, but there are hundreds of platinum records lining the walls, hundreds of platinum records, and like 3 Andy Warhol paintings of John and his wife, or 6, those kind of little paintings of the same thing in different colors.
I gotcha.
And I'm like overwhelmed. I've never seen so much platinum and gold in my life. And we sit in this little sectional, and again, it was his first house where he made money, It's more like the Sopranos house than the houses he has now. It was like new money. And I'm sitting in there, and John hands me a guitar. He says, play us something. He wanted to see if I could sing, if I could sing in front of somebody. And,
right.
And I played him like 3 or 4 songs, and he looked at me and said, okay, stop. I hate you. It was very funny.
Wow.
Okay, I hate you. Stop. And they hand me a record contract.
Oh, really? Right there.
You're right. Yeah, I'm going
that's that's kind of wild, actually.
Yeah, it was really wild. And like I said, This is all God. It is so wacky. Not my experience, not your experience in the record business. Not to date anyway. For me, you get a promise from a record company, and maybe a year later you might sign a contract. Maybe after a bunch, you know what I mean? And
it takes a while.
They handed me the contract. And I didn't go home. I was living in that house in Long Island in Valley Stream with with me and Rosie, and I went into Manhattan and I walked the streets. I used to walk with my wife and my baby, and I was reading the contract and crying and thanking God and going, "Oh my God, this is real, isn't it? We're delivered. I'm saved. You've saved my life." And it turns out, I call Power Windows the song that saved my life because that was a single on that record, and that was the hit actually. And
will you play it? Can you play it?
Sure. I'll play it for you now.
Wow, dude.
Well,
I mean, I want to ask you more about that, but I want to hear Power Windows.
Charlie drives a brand new Mercedes Benz. He's got another one just like it, just like all his friends. His wife is playing tennis and his kids are off at school. He drives home to his empty house, sits by his empty swimming pool, but he's got power windows, he's got power brakes, he's got a power bed, push a button and it shakes. He's no one I talk to and tears are rolling down his face, but he ain't got the power of love. Lewis drives a beat-up 69 Dart, swears it's the statue of Mary, keeps the car from falling apart, with Gracie right beside him, sitting closer than a smile. Got his head on his shoulder, he loves to drive and hold her. He got no power windows, he got no power brakes, he ain't got no power, nothing, but he got what it takes. He's got Gracie's arms around him and a smile on his face. He's got the power of love. No air condition, no cellular telephone. He goes rumbling down the highway listening to his AM radio. One arm out the window and a smile upon his face makes you wonder how it got there till you see him look at Grace. Oh, see him look at Grace. He's got the power. Ain't that the power of love? He's got the power. Ain't that the power of love? He's got the power. Ain't that the power of love? He's got the power. Ain't that the... He got no power. Windows got no power. Brakes, he ain't got no power, nothing, but he got what it takes. He's got Gracie's arms around him and a smile on his face. He's got the power of love. No air condition, no cellular telephone. He goes rumbling down the highway listening to his AM radio. One arm out the window and a smile upon his face makes you wonder how it got there till you see him look at Grace. No, power windows got no power, brakes, he ain't got no power, nothing, but he got what it takes. Yeah.
Man.
He's got the power of love. All right.
Dude, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, good. What a song, man. What a great
Thank you.
you're such a great songwriter, man. And it's I don't know, it's there's something in spiritually I can really see why John loves your songs. It does resonate with like um his style so well. It's a great marriage. It is the power of God in that way, you know. There's something about what you do that's so soulful and reminiscent. Like that song is reminiscent of the sort of Springsteen storytelling sort of
Hmm.
you know, characters and just
Hmm.
but like with an overarching message as well.
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
know. It's
at the worst moment, in one of the worst moments of my life, it was in the wake of losing my wife. It might have been a year after, or so many months after. And I remember I had the night before, a friend had dragged me out to go out for the first time. Like, you got to go out. We got to go out. Like you see in the movies, time for you to go out,
right.
And I wasn't a drinker, never been a drinker. And I drank a lot. And we went into Manhattan to a bar. We're going to meet girls. And I'm just like out of my mind. Girls, really. And left my daughter with my brother in Long Island. I was still living in Jersey at the time. And I woke up the next morning so like hungover, sick, uh, and disgusted and depressed because you wake up after being out in the world and going, oh, this is my new life, standing in a bar, unable to even speak to anybody because I didn't know who the hell I was. And I remember I was in the car driving to pick my baby up. It was around midday. There was a Met game at Shea Stadium, and it was a beautiful day for the beach. And everybody is on their way either to the Met game or to the beach. And I am stopped in dead stop traffic. It's like 100 degrees out in New York. I shut the air conditioning because my car is beginning to overheat, and you could smell that smell. And I saw that song, with every word of that song play out for me right in front of me. I saw a car in
Wow.
front of me. And then I saw and I'm looking at a man in a Mercedes that looked like everything I needed in the world was in that car in front of me. And God saying, look at that car there. And I'm going, I have a conversation with God in my head, and look at that car. And I'm going, I'm dying. I'm going, my car's about to overheat. I'm going to be the guy standing in the middle of the highway, uh, waving traffic around me because my car is beginning to overheat, this piece of junk I had. And God says, look at that car. And I look and I go, what do you want me to look at that car for? That guy has it all. Look at him. He's perfect. His world is perfect. He had perfect hair. His car was the biggest, blackest, shiniest Mercedes-Benz I'd ever seen. He had more value in that car than I had 10 times anything I
In
had
your
in my
world.
life. I had nothing. And I never gave a damn about cars, but suddenly cars meant everything in this
That,
vision, in this thing God's shown me. And then he said, and I'm disgusted, and I'm going, why? He gets a phone call. He gets a phone call. This is 30 years ago. Who had a phone 30 years ago? It's probably on a wire. And I see, and I go, oh my God. Because God's saying, no, you keep looking at this. And I keep looking. And I see him get a phone call. And I said, now my life just got worse. His life just got better. My life just got worse. He has a phone. And that means something to me in this moment for some reason, right? And I'm
or
feeling worse. I'm looking at my life and going, how am I ever going to dig myself out of this hole? I'm done. I'm being buried alive. I've
yeah.
gone from being almost a rock star. I am being buried alive. My daughter, what are we going to do? And then he says, now look over there. And I look over there, and in the slow lane, again, this guy has got me at the mall. I see this car, and it had more body work on it than paint. And the guy in the car the guy on the phone suddenly starts screaming at somebody, and I see a vein on his
Mm.
neck over here, and he looked like he was going to have a heart attack or a stroke. And I thought, oh my God, no, I don't need what's in that car. And then God said, okay, now look over there. And I looked over there in the slow lane, and there was that car with all the body work on it, and a guy who looked like the most happy man I'd ever seen in my life. And I could just see, it was that vantage point where I could only see his profile. And he had his hand window, and he's hearing maybe some salsa music. Something told me he was Hispanic. He also had no air conditioning. And traffic started moving a little, and I got a vantage point so I could see what was making him so happy. Because in my mind, I'm going, what is this guy so happy about? What is this fool driving that piece of junk that looks like it should be up on cinder blocks? Why is he so happy? and I get the vantage point on him, and I see there's a woman sitting right beside him, like pressed up against him. And to me, God showed me a picture of joy like I've seen before in my. They might have been miserable, but in that moment, it was joy, it was bliss, and I'm going, how is this possible? I went home and I wrote Our Windows in 20 minutes.
That's incredible. Hey,
It
Billy,
changed my life. That was
the
the song that
internet's
saved my life.
acting
Yeah.
up. The internet is super acting up right now at the end. I don't know why it is. I think it's my thing. I should have stopped it. I should have restarted it before.
Oh,
But
okay.
this has been like such an incredible interview that I'm kind of like nervous about something going wrong with Zoom or something. I gotta learn to record these with a backup. I still haven't figured that out yet, but I wanted to ask you one more question, and that's an
Okay.
awesome story about the inspiration behind Power Windows, and I really appreciate you telling it. And yeah, your whole story is such a huge inspiration to so many people that they've given up on their dreams, or they think it's permanently dark. And the fact that you are where you are now, the fact that you're in this amazing house in Nashville, that your life completely did turn around, and that you went through such hard times, this is all just an incredible testimony, actually. So I just wonder, and like what you were saying, the nature of the song Power Windows as well, is it's just like, yeah, the thing that sucks about not having money is it makes you obsess about money. The great thing about having money is you don't have to think about money all the time. Like, you get liberated from that torment. It's like,
Yeah.
so it's like, it's understandable why, like you at first glance want a big Mercedes Benz, even though you don't care about cars, because that represents freedom from that torment. But I'm wondering now, from your perspective now, and then we'll wrap it up, but just
Sure.
because I think we've been going for an hour and a half or something like that anyway,
Seems
but
like
like you
you might
know
have to cut this in two.
nah, I'll just put it out like it is, even with the weirdness.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
even with that time when we couldn't hear each other. Um,
Uh,
I'm wondering, like, looking back at that journey, what do you think it brought you? Why do you think it happened? How have you sort of rectified it with God and with your story? And what do you think you got out of it?
oh my. Well, what I got out of it, I'll start at the end, is fuel for the rest of my life. Um, because at first, when I was delivered, I was absolutely delivered. There were miracles, right? But because I had been in such pain before that, uh, when my wife closed her eyes, my first thought was, I'm going to live now. And then I thought it would be better. As I carried my daughter out of the hospital that night, I picked her up, walked out of that room, picked my baby up off a sofa where she'd gone to sleep. Didn't even say anything to all the people waiting out there. And I just picked her up. And just like the song, when I carried her down that long, dark hall, the hospital, I walked out. About 8 people followed me. I walked down, went down the elevator, nobody saying anything. And I didn't even get in the car. I walked, and these people followed me. It was like a really weird parade, walking back to my house, which was a couple of miles away. I forget how I got there, if I had a car there, but I walked all the way home holding my baby, and it was slightly raining. I covered her with a leather jacket, I remember, and I carried Rosie all the way home. And but I thought things would get better, and it took a while for them to get better. Um, but when they did get better, I didn't go, praise the Lord. And I did say, you heard me, I said, praise the Lord. I said, thank you, God, thank you, God. But as soon as the record started to happen, because it did start to happen, I went to hell. I went right back to every old vice I had. I went back to, I'm going to live now. I'm going to live now. I'm going to do all the stuff that, that as opposed to just taking what God gave me. He gave me a brand new suit of clothes, and I went right back to the pig trough. I went right back to rolling in the mud. And yeah, and I think that's what abbreviated my success with that record, because that record was slated to be like Power Windows was slated to be a #1 song. But as it was at the top of it was like number 18 with a bullet. I was on Casey Kasem, and Casey Kasem, you know who that is? They got the top 40 guy. I don't know if you know that. He was when he
Of
did a top
course,
40
bro.
show.
I was born in 1971, dude.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
you're young, but he was
I
still
don't
around
feel
then, I
young. I mean,
guess.
I do feel young, but I feel like 51 isn't young, but I guess it is. It's all relative.
Yeah,
Anyway, go
yeah,
ahead.
you're
Keep going.
young. So I basically, it was it. I did it. I was done. I was now on tour with Stevie Nicks and Don Henley, these guys, and and I'm going wild. Let's face it, I'm just going wild. And I was thinking, I ain't hurting anybody, right? This is fun. This is fun. It's hurting people. I know it's hurting people. Um, I just girls. That's all. I thought that's what you're supposed to do. You're a rock star, right? Supposed to do. That's how you prove you're successful. And as the thing is cresting, I mean, ready to shoot up the charts. It's 18 with a Casey Kasem said, "Man, after all this time you've done it, how does it feel?" And I'm on the radio and all this stuff. I'm all over Europe. I'm going everywhere. I'm limousine life and all this stuff, and I'm eating it up. I'm buying it all, And the president of the label gets sued for sexual harassment. Never heard of that before. It was unheard of then, right? And the label froze. Everything froze. All the money froze. Everything stopped. He got fired. There was no president. They brought an interim president in. Everything stopped. If you weren't already a rock star, you weren't becoming one in the months that followed that. And so the record died on the vine, which was, it sold a couple of 100,000, which in those days meant nothing because people were selling multiple platinum records.
Millions, yeah.
But I really do attribute to that was God's hand was on it. And I decided to walk out from under that hand and go my own way. And the idea, if that continued in the way I was living, I might not be alive now. Somebody's husband would have killed me or something else.
Right.
Certainly my daughter would not have a dad in the way she wound up having a dad that was there for her. So I look back on all of it with no regret. And I thank God for every little bump in the road, for every little direction that redirection, or when the GPS took me back around the block a couple of miles because I made a mistake. God taught me something. Everywhere I went, I learned something, good, bad, or in every hole I fell in, he taught me something and he built something into me. And I've told you this already, but it was in the last few years, it's been like a renaissance for me in the last 5 or 6 or 7 years when I became very aware of the presence of God. And I became aware that God is still a supernatural God who still heals. And I started praying for folks everywhere I go and seeing at first no one getting healed, and then seeing people getting healed, and then seeing instantaneous miracles where a guy who was dying on the sidewalk didn't die. He got up because I said, "God, get him up in Jesus' name, amen." He got up. This was after firemen were working on him for however long, trying to revive somebody that was dying in the street. And anyway, long other story. But I've seen miracles, and musically, I feel like it's a renaissance for me. And I'm younger now than I was 10 years ago because of the walk I'm walking, or attempting to walk, just walking in obedience, spending time with him in what he calls the secret place, which Jesus said, when you pray, go into your closet, shut the door, and be alone with your Father. That's what we're here for. And then you'll have something to bring the world. Because if you don't spend time with him, all you got to give the world is you. And that may look good, and people may pat you on the back and say, "You're a good guy." But if you ain't giving them Jesus, you ain't giving them anything that's going to last. So that's what I learned. I learned what's important. But it took a long time. It took a long time. And again, you have to do what you can. You do something. If you're in that place, I look at people's lives. I deal with so many people on my channel. I'm live 3 nights a week for like 2 hours a week on YouTube, and hopefully other places soon on my YouTube channel. And I'm involved in these people's lives. They call me. I send them stuff. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's not so big that I can't have personal interaction with all these folks. When they need me to call them, I talk to them, I pray for them. And it's not because I'm such a nice guy. It's because God has been so good to me. I got nothing. If I got something to give, I'm going to pour it out all day long as I can. But that's, I just, you got to do something. For a long time, I felt like I was the guy sitting on the sofa eating donuts, wanting to lose weight, and I think a lot of people are sitting on the sofa eating donuts, praying, "God, I just want to lose weight." And you can't live like that. It doesn't work. He expects us to do what we can, because if we don't do what we can, you know what? Our hearts will never get to the place where we can actually believe and accept his blessing, because he's not sitting around going, nah, you ain't good enough yet. He is not doing it. That's not my God. That is not our God. Jesus Christ did not die on the cross, so I had to be good enough for my Father to bless me. My earthly father didn't care if I was good or bad to bless me. He blessed me no matter. He did care if I was good or bad, because he knew if I was bad, I might get myself in
In
traffic.
trouble, yeah.
Yeah. So that's all God wants.
I look at it like my daughter. I watch her, she's 19 months, maybe 20 months now.
Wow.
Right. So, and I watch her, and she is full of life, full of energy, full of rebellion, full of like all the great things. And I watch her want something to happen. I watch her like will take over, and it's like stuff sometimes that she'll put herself in harm's way, and I'm just like, nope, can't do that. And then she'll like have a fit or cry or whatever, and I'm like, that's how God is with us. It's like we have our will and we think it should be this way, and then it's like it's not that way, and we're like, and then God is like, well, like I'm just like to her going like, you can do that, but you're not doing that. So like,
yeah. No,
I really think
right.
it's the similar thing, man. It's like we don't know what he knows, and so we have to trust, and that's where faith comes in. But
yeah. Your analogy of the daughter is perfect. And again, he's the prodigal, we're the son. And if anybody ever thinks what they're doing is so bad that he's angry with them, he's not. His heart breaks, and he's going, come on.
That's the other thing. That's the other thing with my daughter. I'm never mad at her. I'm like, I just love her. Like, and even if I'm telling her no, or even having to be like slightly firm about it, or I'm not the best at that. Anna's way better.
It breaks your heart to do it.
Yeah, I don't want to do it. And like, I'm not mad at her at all, but like, it's like, I have to do it for her own good. And I really think that is the way God views us. We're like his children. And it's like, sometimes we, have to be disciplined, and life disciplines us because we're off track, but it's not like I'm mad at you. It's just like, dude, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing,
Yeah. And that's, again, it gets right back to the blaming God. People blame God when he gave you free will. You want to drive your car off a cliff? That's what you do. That's what happens when you drive your car off a cliff. You go crash. And he would break every law that he ever put in motion, and he cannot, because he cannot lie, right? He could send angels, he could send people, talk to you, tell you, hey, don't do that. You could see your parent, like you as a parent. You'd start, no, don't do that. But once they're, if that's their will, if they really want to do that, you know what, they're going to do it. You just got to pray that when they do it, when they crash, it's a soft landing,
Yeah. Hey, do you want to play, like, tell people about where your YouTube channel is and everywhere they can find you? Do you want to play the new song you got coming out about the trafficking?
Yeah, sure. I absolutely will.
Hopefully
I could do that.
The internet doesn't act up, but we'll see.
Yeah.
It's been mostly good.
Good. So you just asked. So my YouTube channel is Billy Falcon Music. The show's called Never Surrender. And what will I say? We do Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday evenings. It's usually 6:30 or 6:45. If anybody wants to hear me jabber on about this kind of stuff and sing some of these songs, join us there. It's a lovely bunch of folks, and they welcome everybody that comes in the chat when we pray for folks. And like I said, I give them my phone number. I say, email me. I'll call you. We'll pray. And people have been getting healed on the channel of all sorts of stuff, and it's really neat. And it's sometimes a struggle, but we stand firm, believing that God means what he says and says what he means. Jesus said, "Greater works, these and greater works you shall do." So he was either lying or he was telling the truth. The only missing piece, Jesus, what did he do? He took the beating at the whipping post. His body was torn to shreds, where he didn't look like a human being. He took that terrible, horrible, ugly walk with the cross, which was the most beautiful thing that ever happened in all of history. It was ugly as hell. It was horrific because of how he looked, but it was the most beautiful walk ever. He took it to the cross, and he took the nails, and he said, "Forgive them, they know not what they do." He did that because for us, he did it for us. He paid with his body for our bodies, for our brokenness. He paid not only for our sins, he paid for our broken bodies. We got to settle that. It's settled in heaven. We got to settle it here on earth. And I just refuse to believe anything else, that it is God's will to heal my body. And he's done amazing things. I haven't been to a doctor in 15 years. Whatever. I don't know. Anyway, I'll play you the new song, but it's Billy Falcon music on YouTube just now. And hopefully in weeks to come, we're going to be on a bunch of platforms. Some people don't like YouTube. It's kind of communist and with the censorship and all that, but the tech is good. But you can visit, hit the bell so you know what time. It's either 6:30 or 6:45, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And anybody wanting the music, it's billyfalcon.com. Most of it is, I think, pay what you want or pay nothing at all. The most important thing is that I want people to have the music. And if they can't afford anything, then just take it. Anyway, there are some CDs available. The later one, Never Surrender, which is 20 of the new songs, is available if you want actually a hard copy and you get the digital download. Look at me, I sound like a commercial. This is called...
You got to do it, Billy. You got to do it. You got to tell the people love you, man. We love you.
Thank you. This is something I just finished the video yesterday. In fact, I'll send you the video.
Okay.
I don't know when you put this up, but I got to figure out when I have to release it on a guy's channel who helped me. A fellow named Good Dog and his wife helped me come up with the clips. And I have to say, making this video was the hardest thing in terms of editing that I'd ever have to do, because the stuff I had to comb through. So I tried not to make the video ugly. And there's a lot of Jesus in the video, and that's the only thing that redeems it. But yeah, it's called Heaven Hears the Children Cry. It go like this, but the video should come out in the next week or two. Blah, blah, blah. Brick by... Whoa. I got a frog. Pardon me. No editing.
It sounded
brick
good.
By brick.
It was a good kind of growl.
Yeah, but it could get worse.
All right.
It's early. It's still early for the voice. Here we go. Shouldn't be. Brick by brick, stick by stick, their castles coming down. Just to be sure it don't grow back, we better burn the ground. Dirty water, dark and deep, the unspeakable's about to speak. You can hold your ears, you can close your eyes. Whoa, heaven hears the children cry. Whoa, tick tock tick, drip drop drip, death will not kill your pain. The hidden things will be revealed. Here comes the hurricane. You must know this won't end well. For you a special place in hell from your filthy crimes. There's no place to hide. Whoa, heaven hears the children cry. Whoa, heaven hears the children cry. Heaven sees, heaven hears, angels save every tear. Heaven sees, heaven hears, angels save every tear. Heaven sees, heaven hears, angels save every tear. Heaven sees, heaven hears. Politician, preacher man, got your head in the sand. Think Jesus will understand. He will not understand. Heaven hears the children cry. children cry. Whoa, heaven hears the children cry. Whoa, heaven hears the children cry. Yes.
All right, Billy Falcon. My camera just died, my fancy one. Now I'm down at this thing. That was beautiful, and the internet's acting up. So
Thank you, brother.
thank you for coming on.
It's a pleasure, Joseph. My pleasure.
I hope you come on again, and we'll pick it up.
I'd love to.
We'll pick it up from you walking down the Manhattan City street with the contract, where the story went from there. Of course, you did go into that, but really appreciate it, my friend.
God bless you, Joseph. Thank you. Bless you and your family. And thank you, folks, for listening. This is fun. You're great, Joseph. You are truly a gift here.
Thank you, my brother.
Beyond
you
music,
as well.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. And
thank you,
thank you for doing the work you're doing, man, and for bringing light to where you're bringing light, man. You're a gem, dude. Your testimony is beautiful, and you're a beautiful man. So God bless you. We'll be praying for you. And
thank you.
Yeah, man. I'll talk to you soon. I'll hit you up on the old phone sometime and be like, Billy, talk to me. I'll see you later, brother.
Right. Love you, man. God bless
you. Love you too. God bless.
All right. Bye.